Hello. I promise I won't be in a bathrobe for this entire thing. It's just the intro. Reason being, I filmed the entire video and then realized when I was done filming and had it up on my computer that it was too long to be one video. And so I had to cut it into two videos. But that meant I had to film another outro and another intro. And I realized this as I was getting ready for bed. I couldn't find the cute outfit I was wearing. So you're stuck with me here in a bathrobe. Needless to say, this is a continuation of the last video. And this is a recording of a session I had with a Vedic astrologer who read me like a book. It was absolutely incredible. And he has lots of clever things that he says, and I think he should open a t-shirt store and put those clever things on them. But without further ado, we'll jump right in. Today we are talking about marriage, death, and divorce in my natal chart.
The other planet that jumps out at me in your Vedic chart is the sun. The sun in Vedic astrology, it moves from Capricorn into Sagittarius, which is one of its strong signs, because Sagittarius loves to be in the fire signs of Aries, Leo, or Sag. The sun, loves to be in the fire signs because it's a fiery entity. So in Sagittarius, it's in a fire sign. So that's very strong for it. And again, it can indicate that need for adventure. It's a very spiritual placement for the sun to be in Sagittarius. So even when you read about astrology, besides Capricorn, which you still have strong Capricorn energy in your Vedic chart, I would suggest reading up on Sagittarius as well.
And in some ways, I do feel like I relate more to Sagittarius, definitely with like the fieriness and the sense of adventure and that kind of thing. I will say, I always, before I knew anything about Vedic, I really did like that I was a Capricorn because it resonated 100%, like the idea of being a workhorse or a work goat, whatever you want to call it. It was an awful goat nose. Take two.
Flashback.
That was better. It had the vibrato. It had the vibrato. What I'm trying to say, my career has always been really important to me. And I can't remember if it's in this part or later, where he talks about me doing well in like a healing field. And I love working in startup. And I feel like this is the one thing that wasn't talked about that is a really key piece of my character, which is that I love to build things. I love to create things, and that can be creative, but also like in the world of business, like there's a reason why I've worked mostly for startups and agencies. And it's because I love the energy. It's super fast paced. I wear a million hats, and it's just an exciting thing to be a part of. And so I've always seen myself as a businesswoman and not necessarily as a healer, but I can also see like I am into the whole like holistic hippie healing thing. I'm a total crunchy granola hippie. So that's there too. But the one thing that wasn't touched on is that I am very like extremely driven. I haven't met too many people who have that same amount of drive. Like when I am all in, I am all in. I'm very physical, and I'm pretty like ambitious. And I don't know, maybe that gets wrapped up in fiery, but that was just one thing where I was like, I'm a really intense personality, and I'm not sure that came across in my Vedic chart. I don't know.
Now, the sun is in the 7th house in your Vedic chart.
His tone changes. Sun in the 7th house is problematic.
It does indicate the importance in terms of marriage. I would say the mantra could be when in doubt, wait it out.
Yeah.
Like you could get close to marriage and then back away, so it indicates the need to go slow in that area. What's been your karma like with relationships? I'm curious.
Quite bad, to be honest.
I put it so nicely.
And I think it's because for a lot of my life, I didn't respect myself. And so I got pulled into things that were really bad. And so I've been single for, I think, going on 4 years now.
Okay.
Happily so. And I'm not in a rush. I'd much rather wait for something good and like healthy to come along. So
Great. Fantastic. Were you ever married?
no.
Okay. Because it shows in your chart, to be honest, an early marriage would end in divorce. An early marriage would end in divorce. But what? You're just, 27?
Yeah. Yeah. And I did, so I don't feel like that's that young. I did love someone like a spouse when I was 18, and like we even before I believed in like the past lives things, like I thought that there was something there because we would like have the same dreams at night, like be in each other's dreams. It was very weird. And so in that way, and that was when I was 18. And so I wonder if that might be relevant. I don't know with astrology if marriage is like literal like it is here, like you put a ring on your finger, or if it's more like the quality of the connection, but that's something that might be a possibility. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, when you were 18, you were in a double Rahu period. And Rahu, my wife, affectionately calls it Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. So again, you're still in this Rahu period. It's an 18-year cycle. It's in the fifth house, which is the house of love affairs and romance. So it can indicate a strong connection with someone during that period. But sometimes with Rahu, not always, but sometimes with Rahu, um, things don't necessarily last. You
Mm.
know, how long were you with him?
2 years.
Okay, because you were in a double Rahu period from the age of 17 to 19.
That's when I dated him. That's wild.
And then at 19, you went into Jupiter, Rahu Jupiter.
Hmm.
Now, Jupiter does rule your seventh house of marriage, but Jupiter is in the sixth house. When the ruler of the seventh is in the sixth, sometimes it can indicate, challenging marital karma early in life again. Because not only that, but Jupiter is with Pluto in your chart. So that could have indicated the death or the loss, of the loved one, literally or figuratively, doesn't
Yeah,
have
he
to.
did die.
Huh?
He killed himself actually, so that's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, were you still with him at the time?
No, it was a little ways after.
One way you can circumvent this karma is by just having a spiritual marriage, at least early in life. Living with the person, being with them, knowing them really well. Because sometimes people put their best foot forward the first year or two, and then you don't really get to see fully who they are until you get more fully into the relationship, and then the shadow kind of reveals itself.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
sometimes I've been married 30 years, and sometimes the shadow reveals itself even 10, 20, 25 years into that marriage. So it's not like it's just an early marriage thing. But again, we would say, again, the mantra would be go slow and steady. And to have your David Letterman top 10 list of what you want in a relationship.
And there's a part in here, I'll put it up on the screen, but where I just look completely crushed. And the reason for that is because it's how do I put this into words? If I were to love someone enough to marry them, and love is an awful reason to marry someone, by the way. I really do think that you've got to have love, but it also has to be like unconditional trust. You have to respect that person. You have to know fully who that person is. They have to be good company. Like there's a long list of reasons of like little boxes that I would need to tick to ever feel comfortable marrying someone. And so the idea that there's the possibility in my chart that I could feel confident enough in my choice of spouse to marry them, and then for that to end badly, for that to end at all. Like I feel like I would be so emotionally devastated. I would rather just be single forever. To all my suitors out there, I am no longer accepting applications. I already wasn't, but I'm not. Check back when I'm old and shriveled, when all my eggs have shriveled up and fallen out of my womb. Then perhaps.
The point is to be picky. And
I'm good at that.
number one is that because Jupiter, rules your seventh house of marriage or relationship, has to be built on one of the great cornerstones for you is the spiritual connection with your partner. Then secondly, the intellectual connection.
Mhm.
And then third, that the person should be like your very best friend, the importance of the friendship aspect of it. And then finally, the romance or passion. It's not necessarily that those are in order.
So basically the sex is going to be really mediocre.
But they may be a little bit for you.
Yeah.
Those four cornerstones need to be there, So again, it needs to be that solid foundation. But I think it should be built actually on divine friendship, and that the most important romance for you is the divine romance, as Yogananda, Paramhansa Yogananda would call it, the divine romance. He wrote a book on it, which is the romance with God and Goddess, with our higher self.
Yeah, I'm not Christian, but the way Christians say it is God first, and I really do believe that it's our connection to, you can call it self, but really it's that. I like to think of it as the field, source, spirits, the universe, because I'm a goddamn hippie.
I would say, whether it's me or whoever, maybe have the charts compared,
Yeah.
for marriage and things like that. But yeah, I would say just, again, the mantra, like I said, is when in doubt, wait it out, go slow, things like that. Because you are in this Rahu cycle, which is a cycle of adventure. And it's a cycle of, really, one of the key words would be freedom. And so anybody you get involved with also should be the guardian of your seclusion, your need for alone time. As they say, let there be space in our togetherness. So
Yeah.
it should be someone that really honors your freedom, because you're a little bit like a wild horse.
Yes.
You're a centaur in the Vedic system. Sun is in Sag, which is the centaur energy, the half
You heard that? Half woman, half animal.
half horse, or half woman, half horse. And so there's that kind of need for a big pasture to roam in. Big pasture to roam in. There can be a fence around the pasture, so you could get loyal and committed in a relationship, but it should be one of those fences where it's like a steeplechase fence, where you can jump over and back, where you can have your freedom, but also have your commitment and loyalty as well. So it's kind of interesting, again, where you need that space, you need that freedom is real important for you.
I like you, but you don't own me.
You're also running the sub-cycle in this big Rahu period, which Rahu runs until 2030, February. So basically you're still in Rahu for 8 years, according to my calculations. But there are sub-cycles within Rahu. And I forgot to mention, Rahu is in your 5th house, which is the house of romance. So it can still bring romance, which you experienced early in the cycle too. But again, it indicates the need for stability there, need for stability.
Yeah.
Your Rahu is in the sign of Libra in Vedic astrology in the 5th house, which is ruled by Venus. So it can still bring relationships, but again, like I said, not to be pulled into the underworld, date boring people.
Just boring people.
Just teasing. But anyway, no, because you're drawn to intensity, but
like, boring in what way is the thing? I don't mind someone who's like a little straight-laced. You know what I'm saying? It's a good balance to me, because I'm all over the place, like something more grounded. But boring, like what do you mean? Like, watches football on Sundays and I don't know. No, none of that.
Make sure it's not too intense,
Yeah. That makes sense. It's a little bit paradoxical, but I think that's exactly what would be good for me, is something that not boring but stable, like has the intensity but isn't out of control, because I've had that and it's not for me. So
it's not. It's definitely not. So if passion and romance pulls you into a relationship, be a little careful with that. And then you go into Rahu Venus. And Venus, again, not that you won't get involved before then, but I would say, again, slow and steady. And then Rahu Venus starts in August of 2023. And Venus is the planet of love and relationship. So it can bring a strong relationship in. But again, it should, like I said, it should be where there's a certain sense of calmness in the midst of the intensity that maybe you're drawn to sometimes, in relationship.
It's like a complete paradox.
But I think you're a true romantic, so you believe in old school romance, that it should come in,
mm-hmm.
So I would say, rather than a hopeless romantic, you're a hopeful romantic,
Yeah, well,
put it on a t-shirt.
Experiences that you've gone through. Anything unusual?
So, well, in terms of an accident, I broke my femur when I was 7 riding horses, but I did have a really strange experience in Thailand, which kind of put me onto the whole mystical path. So when
I was also born with my umbilical cord 3 times around my neck and tied in a true knot. I was trying to hang myself before I got here.
I was 21. I was living abroad in Thailand. I went to a silent meditation retreat, Vipassana, and I got really sick about a weekend. And long story made short, I had what I think was an out of body experience on the train. It scared the shit out of me because I didn't believe in those things at the time. And then I spent 2 years in and out of doctors' offices with all sorts of weird illnesses that no one could diagnose.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the short version.
Yeah, because it's like kind of like what I would describe as a cat, you know, and you have 9 lives. You may have used up 3 of them, you know. So, you know, it's like there is that feeling of this lifetime, you in a way making peace with death. And actually, it's interesting. The Pluto is connected with research, and so it doesn't have to necessarily be empirical research, but it can be whatever it is you study. You want to go deep into the depths of it, explore the steamy gullies of the soul, you know, to go where angels fear to tread sometimes even. So this can again be this fascination for you with death rebirth, you know, in your chart. And even maybe talking about that with your YouTube channel, kind of going into that in some level, some fashion. And Pluto, because it's kind of like the Sherlock Holmes planet of the zodiac, and Scorpio is the Sherlock Holmes sign of the zodiac. And again, you have the moon in the 8th house, which indicates this as well. So it's this Sherlock Holmes quality of liking to solve problems, liking to solve riddles, you know, coming up with solutions. So again, you could
That is literally me to a T at work, I think, in terms of problem solution.
put on your business card, problem solver, you know,
Yeah.
problem solver. That's your one of your gifts, you know, this lifetime. Your Pluto is actually also with Venus, which is the planet of love. So it does connect with the Greek myth of Persephone, of sometimes feeling, maybe this is more in the past, of being pulled into the underworld by relationships. You know, where Persephone was, remember, abducted by Hades, you know, and pulled by Pluto and pulled into the underworld. You know, there's actually, go ahead.
I wrote a screenplay. It was called The Adventure of Mr. Grimm and Myrtle Danger. And it was literally like, sometimes I felt like those characters were a reflection of me, particularly the female character, but the idea of like falling in love with the Grim Reaper. And so I think it's funny that you brought up Hades and Persephone because I drew a lot of inspiration from that myth in
Yeah.
writing the story. Wow. Okay.
Okay, not something I ever thought that I would talk about on the internet. Hello, internet stranger, but we started to go there, so we're just gonna go there because this is honestly like the weirdest synchronicity of my life. And to this day, I don't know what it means. If you know what it means, let me know in the comments because I don't know. Here's the short version. When I was in Thailand, I had an out-of-body experience that scared out of me because I didn't believe in that kind of thing. Okay, I didn't even know that kind of thing was like a possibility, had never entertained the idea. And so I had that experience and I came home thinking I was going insane. And that was the hardest part for me about spiritual awakening is like, it was always this tug of war between like, is what I'm experiencing real or am I like crazy? And I just don't know it. Like I still, to this day, there's a tug of war and I'm always wondering. And so in those 2 years, I had a mysterious illness that no one could diagnose. It was very bizarre. And simultaneously, I'm also working on a screenplay trying to get into a grad school program that I'd wanted to go to since I was like 12. And this screenplay was called The Adventure of Mr. Grimm and Myrtle Danger. And it was this like snarky modern retelling of Hades and Persephone. And I'd started writing it in high school. I dusted it off and played with it a little bit in college. And then after Thailand, I'd started to work on it again because I thought that I was going to go to grad school. And something weird started to happen throughout the course of reworking this script. I started to feel like the characters' lives were paralleling my own, particularly Myrtle. Okay, and so I should, a little bit of context for the screenplay. General premise is that the Grim Reaper goes on a road trip with this like reckless sort of manic pixie daredevil. She's called Myrtle Danger. It's a play on words of mortal danger. So you've got Grim Reaper and Crazy Bitch. And I started to feel like I started to notice these weird similarities between what I was writing and then what would happen in my life. But the thing is, like, I'd started writing this screenplay in high school. So it's not like I was writing these things as it happened. It was like I had written something in high school that was coming true in my own adult life. It was so weird. And I just had, you know, the in Thailand, and I was like, well, maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm, you know, making connections where there aren't any. But it was that tug of war. It's like, am I imagining that my life is paralleling this story, or is it actually like happening? Then one day I got lost in San Diego, and I turned onto a street called Grimm, and I thought, oh, that's weird. I wonder. I'm just gonna keep driving and see what happens. And I hit a cross street. Finally, I hit a cross street called Myrtle. Grimm, Myrtle. I have no clue, dude. It was absolutely bizarre. And I don't know. I don't know what it means, because that screenplay was kind of about making peace with death, but it was also about living life fully. Maybe we'll talk about it sometime. I don't know. But I was like, I'll throw up I think I took a picture of it, and if I have it, I'll insert it here. So you know I'm not making this up. Yeah, dude, it was pretty crazy. And so the fact that he picked up on like the Hades and Persephone thing, and that being like a theme in my life, I'm like, how does anyone know that? How is that in my astrology? Are you shitting me?
Okay.
So that indicates that story where she's abducted, okay, pulled in. But there's another version of that story. I'm trying to remember what book it's in, but if you research it, you know, I'm sure you'll find the book. But the other version of that story is that she chooses to go down. She wants to go into the underworld and explore the steam eagle.
Maybe it's the rabbit hole. There you have it. That was my session with a Vedic astrologer, a pro-Vedic astrologer. I obviously loved the experience. He's really wonderful at what he does. He gave tons of great advice. He knew so much about me that he had no way of knowing, but it was fun. It was fun, and I really liked it. And I would totally go back and try this out for other things. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little peek behind the curtain. And in any case, thank you so much for joining me today. Hail to the power and the sights. Oh wait, did I mention his stuff is in the description? I mentioned that. Hail to the power and the sights. And until next time, I hope you stay very, very blessed.
And breath control is death control. You know, is the way I describe it.
There's another golden nugget. Like, honestly, this man needs a t-shirt shop. Let's do it.